UK ministers threaten sanctions on Hong Kong officials.
Here's a summary of the article.
Foreign Office ministers have for the first time threatened to use new sanctions laws against individuals in Hong Kong found guilty of human rights abuses during the government's efforts to suppress street protests. The threat, picked up on social media by Hong Kong protesters, was made in a letter from the Minister for Asia and the Pacific, Heather Wheeler, setting out the government's response to the crisis. Chris Whitehouse, an aide to the All-Party Parliamentary Group on Hong Kong, said the Hong Kong chief executive, Carrie Lam, and senior Hong Kong police officers were obvious targets for potential use of the legislation. What is happening on the streets of Hong Kong is not policing going wrong. When police drive motorcycles into crowds of young protesters, they are intending to kill or maim. When they repeatedly beat protesters for 4 minutes, this is due to a policy from above. The Foreign Office has the means to identify the senior police officers. Campaigners have claimed Downing Street is again considering changing the citizenship status of an estimated 170,000 holders of British national overseas passports in Hong Kong. Any such move would antagonize China and lead to protests about the anomaly of most Hong Kong citizens being excluded, especially the younger students leading the protests. The passports were created after Britain returned Hong Kong to Chinese rule in 1997 and issued to residents of the territory born before that date.
This post received a score of 18,644, with an upvote ratio of 96%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
Although UK should clearly declare China has violated the Sino-British Joint Declaration by now, the first step of saving Hong Kong is better than taking no steps at all. Though UK should speed up her progress, much needed for Hong Kong citizens.
UK did. China called it a historical document of no significance. This is a while ago.
Historical document of no significance. Guess we can apply that to the 9- line.
The only document that matters is ours, China probably.
Our checks. Our burnt copy of Winnie the Pooh.
The Little Red Shirt book.
The UK should suggest a law that would deport said officials to stand trial in an international court.
Yep, took them long enough to call it out though. Wonder who delayed it. Also, ministers also hoped the violence would die down before elections due to be held in a fortnight's time, but instead the violence has escalated. Yeah, it escalated about 9 weeks ago.
Greater than wonder who delayed it, not everything is a conspiracy. The political environment in HK is extremely sensitive. The UK government have to be very careful how they tread. If they go too hard they risk China steamrolling it and taking full control, making the situation even worse. Clearly UK Gov thought it would die down by now, so they are taking additional steps.
It's about bloody time.
And like all political accomplishments the UK Gov performs on time, meaningless in practical terms.
What they would be far better off doing is making life difficult for companies whose shares are owned by the Chinese, to do business here for a time, as well as anything else they wind up doing. Although the UK is a smallish market by the standards it sets for itself, having companies as diverse as component distributors and computer games manufacturers, toy firms and the like, all finding business costly as hell in the UK purely based on the amount of penetration of Chinese share ownership, would be a far more effective tool than anything they likely have in the pipeline. This would bypass the proxies of the Chinese in the HK leadership, and attack the source of the issues where it matters.
Their donors.
Yes, finally we're seeing a European government taking some sort of action.
I like your optimism, but this is based on a threat of sanctions that could be passed using legislation that hasn't even been implemented yet. The law hasn't been made a law yet, and has been delayed for ages already. I doubt the Chinese have really forgotten, or forgiven us, yet for the First Opium War, and the Second Opium War. I suspect the UK is more likely to try to resume its traditional role as the world's largest military-backed drug dealer than it is to annoy a vital trading partner just when we may need one the most.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.